I keep saying all of this is to train AI. Also, look at my opening statements from last week's video. That connects to everything you see here. This was a little while ago, a couple of weeks ago when I found this headline. I skipped over it because I was like, I don't care anymore. Sometimes now when things pile up like that, I just stop caring because I'm bored. But the Federal Trade Commission started looking into the idea of what they're calling surveillance pricing, which is basically personalized surge pricing. So that's raising the price according to maybe like your ability to just pay more or your like how much you need the thing. And this reminded me of there's this AR simulation that got really popular a few years ago, and I can't find it now. I found it recently and I tried to find it for this video, but I couldn't find it. So if you know what I'm talking about, let me know. But it was this dystopian gaming universe where the whole world is skinned with various forms of data, and this person is trying to recover their identity. And something that happens at one point is this is apparently a girl character, and they're getting like girly things like girly wellness yogurt and stuff for her hot girl box. But when her identity skin starts glitching out, it starts showing things for, sometimes it shows just the empty grocery store, which is really depressing because it doesn't look like a crazy casino. And then sometimes it glitches over into the Chad version of the world, so designed for a man. So there's just like naked ladies all over everything, and everything's for like to get big muscles. But it's like the exact same product. So I know that's not pricing, but that's just the world looking differently according to the data on you. So prices could be based on your agreeableness and neuroticism, for instance. So this post is very breathless, and I really like this account. I'm not being critical of this account, but it's a very breathless endorsement of remote control robotics, and I thought it was interesting that she said the next generations will have a blast, because yes, that's true that some people have a blast. I also think it'll be maybe really boring at some point. It'll just be overdone. Okay, you can port into the Mars robot, everyone will get to do that. And then the future of work is telepresence robotics, so a lot of the manual labor going to robots is going to be controlled by people. You're just like competing in a global marketplace for low value labor where you're porting into a robot, like cleaning a hotel or something, and it will be like Uber in terms of the amount of money you get. AI has added the director of the machine learning department at Carnegie Mellon to their board. And of course that's super exciting for the director of the machine learning department at Carnegie Mellon. I'm sure he's a great person, but Carnegie Mellon is very involved with a lot of education technology, and that sounds pretty innocuous, but they did this program called Engage with DARPA, so the Defense Department is really interested in how education works. And this program, even though it's not happening anymore, 1,000 others have come and filled the vacuum that are concerned with gaming simulations and intelligent tutoring systems. And it hooks into a story later that I'm going to talk about, where every child is going to have an AI tutor. This logo is pretty good, this bird shield circuit. So Carnegie Mellon is very connected into the world of putting the education on an AI-powered steroids. Everything I've been talking about, Carnegie Mellon University is very involved. So it does not, especially because of what I talked about last week, connecting OpenAI, it's artificial intelligence. You need data to train AI. We're running out of data. One of the ways that AI will be trained is by ubiquitous sensing, signals intelligence, open source signals intelligence, ubiquitous sensing, and that'll be through your digital ID. Everything is a transaction. You're doing everything online. Everything is digitized and on blockchain forever, and just the way you live feeds data into the machine. And while we're at it, we can Kubernetes, cybernetics, steer the ship in whatever direction we want. So it does not surprise me that someone, the machine learning person from Carnegie Mellon, has joined the OpenAI board and is going to be a part of like where this goes, like is going to be a stakeholder in what OpenAI is up to. On that note, there was a headline this week saying that Cannibal AIs could risk digital mad cow disease without fresh data. And this is by Rice University and Stanford, both of whom are also, I forgot to bring up one of the big studies that Rice was involved with, other than this one that had to do with, I think, finance, but it's called model autophagy disorder. Am I saying that right? I don't know how to say that. Where the AI consumes itself. And it's not even that it just needs data that's created by humans, it needs fresh fresh data. It needs to be fresh. So it can't be data that it already got before. So something from the report, some ramifications are clear. Without enough fresh, real data, future generative models are doomed to madness. I don't know what I'm supposed to think of this, but it's this headline in the news this week is making the case for we need to feed all your data to AI. So that's what's going to happen. It's just all the data of everyone's lives forever. Connect back to this, where everything is financialized. We had a talk at the Consensus Blockchain Conference this year about the financialization of culture. The fact that it's happening is not just like a cute novelty. It's extremely useful for training artificial intelligence, and it's extremely useful if you want to have all kinds of granular and broad control over everything. Financialization is the ultimate form of data because of this. This is a disturbing commemorization. I don't know why they had to make this so macabre. The United States dropped the nuclear bomb on August 6th, 1945 at 8:59 a.m. And if astrology is fake, then why was the midheaven exactly conjoined to Uranus to the Archminute? The most violent surprise. The chart for that, located in Hiroshima, is very striking if you know anything about astrology. Because we have Mars in Gemini right now, which Mars was in Gemini with Uranus. When this happened, Mars is going to be in Gemini with Uranus in the next few years. I'll talk about that in a second. But right now, this story has come up. Obviously, it's the anniversary. But we also have Jupiter right on the degree that Uranus was at, and we have Mars in Gemini. Mars, Uranus, and Gemini is always very important for the United States. And this year we have Mars, Jupiter in Gemini. Through September 4th, that's when Mars will just have Jupiter in Gemini, and then Mars will move on into Cancer for something new. But this happened with Mars and Uranus in Gemini. The Civil War happened with Mars and Uranus in Gemini. The United States was founded with Mars and Uranus in Gemini. So we get Mars and Uranus in Gemini, June through August 2026. June through July 2028, May through June 2030, and April through June 2032, which is the end of everything. So all of these dates ranges are not like distinct. They function together. They're a whole story of Uranus and Gemini, and then Mars coming through for like 6 weeks at a time every couple years. And the 2032 one will be quite a crescendo. That's also when the Pluto return of the U.S. Constitution goes exact. That's when I'm saying the whole turn the Constitution into smart contracts will probably be in full effect. If everything hasn't ended yet, or if they haven't done it yet, then there will be something around that for sure. Soon in California, you'll be able to add your driver's license to your iPhone. This is a good example of how I keep saying the digital ID thing is not going to be like a thing that's imposed upon you. It's going to be a cool thing that you want. Also, it's necessary. The way the world is, that there is no other choice. I don't know who I think I'm talking to. I feel like I'm talking to some, which is not my audience, but I'm talking to some cartoon simile of a right-wing, chubby, Midwestern grandpa dad who is raising their fist and being like, digital IDs! But I know that's not who I'm talking to. Anyway, the other states that have this are Arizona, Maryland, Colorado, and Georgia. So the story is Silicon Valley parents are sending kindergarten kids to focus summer camps. And something that I think, so this article is about people who are just like bloodthirsty to get their kids into AI things, and they're like lying about their kids' age, sending their 4-year-olds to classes that are maybe for like 5 and 6-year-olds. So there's that thing. It's like a frenzy. One reason why I think this headline is important / useful is to link the term AI and like kids in school with affluence, because every child is going to have an AI tutor, which connects back to the work that has been done at Carnegie Mellon. Everyone is going to have that. It's not a choice. So we need to frame it to make it look like it's desirable. I'm not saying that this is like that contrived, this article, but it's certainly helpful to have AI, kids in schooling aligned or like all tangled up in the idea of affluence. Like, again, everything that you think might be imposed on you, it's going to be something that you want so that you're fine with it. I don't know what my point is here, because all this stuff is happening. So like, how do you live your life? Is it going to be complaining about everything like I am? Or what are we doing in the world that actually matters? Why do you care about the tech news? And there was another huge data breach that was talked about this week. It happened a while ago, but I guess the company involved is a part of a class, is like the target of a class action lawsuit now. So they're saying that 2.9 billion personal records were compromised and that are now on the dark web. It reminds me of it may have been an episode of Black Mirror, or it may have been something else, where it was like an account of everything that happened the week that everybody's data, everybody's activity just became public and nobody could do anything about it. If you wanted to, you could look into what was someone doing on their phone at this particular time, or where were they, or what conversations were they having. You can look at everybody's everything. It's all public. Nobody's communications are private anymore, or like whereabouts or whatever. Communications, whereabouts, associations, none of it was private. That's where we're headed. I talk a lot about how I've mentioned previously about how I went to a conference, and one of the talks was about the end of privacy. And that was in 2016. They're saying privacy's over. It's not a thing. Anyway, I made this video. 2 of the most humongous security, data, vulnerability things, breaches, or whatever, have happened during Mars transit of Gemini. And I was saying that it's going to be about critical infrastructure. And if you want to call the internet infrastructure, then it works just fine. But this is how everything's going to be moved. This is how mass adoption of Web3 is going to happen. Do you not know what Web3 is? Watch this, and also watch my Intro to Cryptocurrency video, which is, I have a playlist called Special Reports where you can find that. This week is so annoying. I'm sorry. Make no assumptions. If there's something where you can assume something's going to be one way, or you assume you've already read the instructions, or whatever, just make no assumptions. Safe assumptions will be wrong. And I say this very tongue-in-cheek, but don't trust. Verify. Also, there are many squares this week. Let's talk about the square aspect. That's when planets are about 90 degrees from each other in the zodiac. The square aspect is given to Mars, classically. It's 2 things are trying to do the same thing, or they're trying to do the same process, but in a different way that like collide. It is very much like a clash. So we have the second Mercury square Uranus of this retrograde this week, and we also have Mars squaring Saturn, so that is really annoying. It makes everything so much more annoying. And you have Venus squaring Jupiter, which is much less unpleasant than the other 2. Monday, the moon is just in Scorpio, applying to an opposition with Uranus. So it could be another surprise Monday. Remember last week I said Monday was going to be a little bit of a rude awakening. So Monday, all we have is the fallen moon opposing Uranus. It just really makes me think duck and cover. You might have fallen into some sort of hole, whether that's like emotional or whatever, or health-wise, and something is happening that is against you, and so just keep protecting yourself. It isn't quite like time to come out of your shelter. Tuesday's different. Tuesday's kind of all over the place. All these things happen early in the morning, where the moon moves into Sagittarius, sextiles Pluto, and squares Mercury in Virgo. And all day Tuesday, basically, we're past the square with Mercury. We're just dealing with fallout, dealing with things having been all over the place. And the moon's applying to a square with Venus in Virgo. So Tuesday might conclude in maybe a nice way or with something pleasant, but it's not necessarily built to go smoothly. Whatever is on offer that's pleasant on Tuesday. It might be like wrought with some criticism, or since things aren't perfect, you can't enjoy any of it. And we also have Mars completing its conjunction with Jupiter, so there will be wind at your sails. However, Mars is also applying to a square with Saturn. It's like the loudest, hardest trying that maybe doesn't work. Enjoy that Monday and Tuesday. Happening now. On Wednesday, Mars has completed its conjunction with Jupiter. So that energy is now being expended, but it's being expended whilst Mars squares Saturn. So just a lot of energy going towards frustration. And you want to go fast, but you have to go slow. Or maybe you want to go slow, but you're being forced to go fast. It's like both things and not really getting any satisfaction. Mars might see a little victory early in the week. And the moon opposes Mars and Jupiter from Sagittarius. The moon is squaring Saturn too. So Thursday is like Mars conjunct Jupiter, Mars squaring Saturn, all cranked up really loud. And while that's happening, Mercury retrograde moves back into Leo. Now we're looking at the timeline. We're revisiting July 25th through 16th. This is a backwards timeline. Mercury is retrograde. So on Thursday in the morning, we get another change in tone. The moon moves into Capricorn, which is nice. The moon is classically in detriment in Capricorn. That's where the moon doesn't like to be. However, moon in Capricorn, maybe you could just get some things done. You can focus. You have a little bit, you might be able to deal with the fact, just put your nose to the grindstone and deal with the fact that momentum has been hard to come by, that you haven't been able to get to where you want to go, or you haven't been able to make progress on a thing. At least with the moon in Capricorn starting Thursday, you can look at these things, you can assess this landscape with a little more sobriety instead of like frantic all over the placeness. And now officially the moon is off axis from Mercury, which is in Leo, so maybe you get a break from the retrogradiness of it all. Thursday is still, the whole week is frustrating and annoying, but Thursday is still, it will be frustrating in a different way. Although the moon is now in Capricorn, the Mars-Saturn square doesn't go exact until nighttime. It makes me think of this, I forget who said it. I've said it before on, probably for another Mars square Saturn, or like a Mars-Saturn signature. But it's after the final no, there comes a yes. And it is on that yes the future of the world depends. Friday, you can kind of like just pull over to the side of the road and put your hands on your knees and like hunch over and like catch your breath. Maybe Friday's a little bit uneventful, but the aspects going on there are positive aspects, and it's making lemonade when life gives you lemons. We have in the early afternoon, early to mid-afternoon, the moon, so for the first part of the day, the moon is applying to a trine with Venus. It's the moon in detriment applying to fallen Venus, but it's like something. Bust out that written gratitude practice I suggested that you maybe forgot about in my Jupiter in Gemini video, which you can watch. It applies all year long. And count your blessings. Recognize maybe like what you can be grateful for on Friday, and then maybe some access to feeling good could begin to constellate around you. The second part of the day is the moon applying to a sextile with Saturn. So the moon is in Capricorn, ruled by Saturn, applying to a sextile with Saturn. You can get some things done, at least, maybe. Mars is separating from Saturn also. So we're going to assess the fallout of everything we've been frustrated with, all the ways we haven't been able to move forward, and maybe do something about it. So it's not it's not like Monday where I'm like, just go ahead and bury your head in the sand, because anything you try to do will make it worse, probably. Friday, you can at least maybe all week long, it might be that anything you try to do to make it better will make it worse. Mercury is retrograde before the conjunction. Mars is in a really weird place. Just be careful, but of all the days to maybe catch your breath and get some clarity, that could be Friday. I wouldn't bother anytime before that. Saturday, if you wake up early, the moon trines Uranus, so there might be something surprising, and maybe it could be delightful, maybe not. Venus is technically configured to Uranus by trine right now, even though it's really wide. So you might have access to something nice, but we also have a lot of frustrating stuff going on this week. So you might be sick and tired of surprises. But also, the moon applies to a sextile with Neptune in the like early afternoon, early to mid, just in the afternoon on Saturday. So the first part of Saturday might continue that sense of like resolution is possible. I'm not going to call it a sense of resolution. You're not going to get that on Friday and Saturday. But you could get a sense that resolution is possible. It might be a little bit easier to keep your head above water Friday and the first part of Saturday. The second half of Saturday is a little bit of a different story, with the moon moving into Aquarius, the moon activating all the maybe like CrowdStrike and billions of internet users. Basically the entire population is now on the dark web, everybody's private information, and the moon is applying to a conjunction with Pluto. So we also have, I'm going to talk about this for Saturday because it happens in the wee hours between Saturday and Sunday. We have the second square of Mercury with Uranus. So that's Mercury in Leo squaring Uranus in Taurus. The first one happened July 21st. That's when in the United States, one candidate dropped out, another candidate was made candidate. So you can expect something around that, I think, in between Saturday and Sunday. So that's something that could happen on Saturday with the moon trining Uranus. So maybe like Friday into Saturday, events having to do with that. So basically this applies to all weekend. Stuff that happened July 21st comes back and constellates around this weekend. And then the third and final square with Uranus will be September 6th, 2020. And again, watch my Mercury retrograde video for more about the significations around Mars and Leo squaring Uranus and Taurus. But do watch out for arguments and like just being contrarian for the fuck of it, because that's gonna send you you're going to enter a descent into failures. Don't pick fights. Also on Sunday, praise be, we have Mercury's interior conjunction with the Sun. This marks the center of the retrograde, so this week there are many opportunities to mess more things up. So you gotta lay low and keep your wits about you. But after Sunday, the confusion, the things getting worse, the you trying to fix things and making them worse will begin to get better. Mercury's interior conjunction with the Sun is the center of Mercury's retrograde period, and Mercury stations direct on August 28th. So that's how much time we have. Basically 2 more weeks of this. Also on Sunday night, on a lighter note, we have Venus in Virgo, so fallen Venus, squaring Jupiter in Gemini, so Jupiter in detriment. An axial alignment of Venus and Jupiter is good. That's like good things. Yay! However, it's a square and they're both fallen, so it's kind of like earlier in the week, like for Friday morning / Thursday night, there might be something nice on offer. It could be like not as good as you think, or like, not as good as you want it to be, and maybe like too much stuff, a little overwhelming. It could also just be like you got some good things coming at you from both sides and you can't take advantage of any of them because they somehow conflict with each other. That could be a thing. But whatever it is, just try to wring something out of it and take it, because you're gonna need it. This week is so annoying. We've got a nice moon in Aquarius trining Mars in Gemini, so maybe at least there's some lively conversation available, and maybe the food is not very good, but at least you have good conversation. And remember, I just realized I had a calendar for July up just now, so that's cool. I hope that wasn't confusing. Remember, BlackRock and Uniswap are basically the same thing when it comes to large patterns in the world. If you look back upon those things in 30 years, you'll see BlackRock was like a baby, cute, really simple, old-timey, down-home version of Uniswap. And also, remember, your Wi-Fi is a camera that can see through walls.